Good evening, everyone. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm President of the Board of Education, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Iannuzzi,
Here.
Ms. Barrios Brooks,
Here.
Ms. Lewis,
Here.
Ms. Castellano Minaya,
Here.
Ms. Clayton Fernandez,
Here.
Ms. Ross, Mr. Single,
Here.
Mr. Vega, Ms. Williams.
Present.
A quorum is present.
Colleagues, can I get a motion second to go immediately into executive session to meet with District Council and discuss the employment history of particular persons, which may lead to the employment of a particular person?
So moved. Castellano Minaya.
Second, Brooks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We should be out around 7 o'clock to reconvene the public session of the meeting. Good evening, everyone. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm president of the Board of Education, and we are about to reconvene the public session of the meeting. Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to reconvene the public session of the meeting?
So move Clayton Fernandez.
Second Brooks.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Before we get into our meeting tonight, we're going to hold a moment of silence in memory of Johnson Tamaj, a New Rochelle High School student that passed away last week. So we'll take a minute just to remember his memory. Thank you. So moving straight into our agenda, because we know we have some great performances tonight. First up on our agenda is announcements by Board of Education members. Do any of my colleagues have anything they would like to announce tonight?
Yes. Some of my colleagues and I and the superintendent had the honor and privilege of attending the gala for the Fund for Excellence. And the fund provides scholarships for our students. And also, there were many honorees, both of our students and community partners. And it was a great event.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. And I have a quick announcement. I had the pleasure this Saturday, I was at Albert Leonard Middle School, and I got a chance to see the Columbus boys team win their first game of the season, the basketball game, 18-14. It was a very, very, very it was very energized, that game. Everyone was screaming out loud, so it was great to see their first win of the season. All right, seeing no other comments, I'll throw it over to Dr. Reynolds for the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good evening to everybody in the audience and to our family members who are watching at home or watching at a later date. Good evening. I'm going to keep it very short tonight. Just a reminder that schools will be closed next week. Where are all of my students? Schools will be closed next week. Let me hear it. So, schools will be closed beginning President's Day on February 17th through the week, and schools will reopen again on Monday, February 24th. Just keeping in mind that offices will also be closed on Monday, February 17th for the federal holiday. So with that, we ask that you please stay warm and safe and come back to us whole and happy and ready to learn. Some people may be wondering, we're expecting some weather tonight. So based on the weather models that we are closely watching, I'm looking at our Director of Facilities, Mr. Watkins, in the back. It looks like we'll be in school tomorrow, so sorry. But, put your spoons under the table and the ice cube in the toilet and all of that good stuff, and we'll see what happens. But I also want to remind everybody and refresh our memories, happy Black History Month, and we hope that everybody has a great vacation next week.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds. So we are now going into our presentations. So Dr. Reynolds, do you want to set the stage for our first presentation of the night?
Absolutely. I'm going to ask, are we transitioning, Mr. Gallon, or we can stay here? Okay, so I'll do it from this seat. This evening, we have the privilege and the honor of being at the Columbus Elementary School. We have such a fantastic turnout to see and hear about the great things that are happening on this side of town in this particular building. And I couldn't be more pleased than to be led down this path of discovery by any other leader, and that leader tonight being our school principal, Mr. Michael Galland.
Well, thank you.
And please notice the suit, the tie, and the freshly changed shirt for tonight.
I didn't even plan that, you know, I just happened to cross paths with you and show you my crisp shirt, but either way. Anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros esta noche. Dr. Reynolds, Board President Iannuzzi, members of the Superintendent's Cabinet and Board of Education, welcome. It's always an honor to host you. How about that? I want to begin by thanking everyone that continues to nurture our beautiful school. So Columbus is lifted every day by so many devoted teachers and support staff. And thank you to the beautiful teachers that I see in our seats right now. Thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for being such wonderful colleagues. Columbus is also lifted all the time by incredible parents, and this year I thank again Ms. Myra Torres and Claudia Perez, who are our PTA presidents and vice president, and Emma Silva is here, even though she is not even officially anything, she is officially everything. So thank you, Emma, for always doing that. I also feel so honored every year to thank Will and our neighbors of the Mascaro Boys and Girls Club. We are the luckiest school on the planet, and I say it every year, every school should be built alongside a Boys and Girls Club. I also, even though I know she's gonna hate me for saying this, I want to acknowledge and thank my direct supervisor, Dr. Olivine Roberts, who's sitting somewhere in the back, and want to just say how, of the many, many years that I've been a teacher and an administrator, how lucky I feel to work with you and Dr. Krakow. Thank you so much, Olivine. So tonight, board members, tonight we get to showcase for you an evolving piece of science and STEM education at Columbus. And we're going to show you how 10 classes, about 15 teachers, have begun to incorporate robotics and coding into their teaching. So our teachers' learning has been guided and supported for a number of years by different partnerships with Mercy University. And this year, our teachers applied for a big grant and won a big grant. And we are now, thank you, Carmen, we are now a WIPPRO partner school. So you'll hear a little bit more about that this evening. And I'm very pleased as well at the end of our presentation to acknowledge and welcome 7 members of the Columbus teaching community to tenure. I don't know why. So first, our school is blessed with tremendous teacher leadership. The teachers named here on this slide provide our admin team with critical feedback when needed and partner with us always in planning PD and envisioning organizational changes big and small. Each of the people listed here is a tremendous teacher in his or her own right, and Ms. Cruz and I benefit so much from their partnership. And I also want to recognize how important it is to us to work with the Columbus Fuse leaders and district Fuse leadership, Mary and Aisha, and everyone who is always willing to collaborate with us, and we share an important value. The Columbus Fuse leaders, as they advocate vigorously for their members, they share an ethic of caring deeply about the overall health of our school in all its complexity. So thank you to Fuse. And finally, before we begin, I wish to recognize our incredible assistant principal who's with us, Ms. Frances Cruz. I think I'm most in awe of Frances's empathy. She's never better or more than anyone. She doesn't have to work hard to permit families to see that she already sees their worth and their humanity. She solves problems by listening, and she solves problems with humility and she solves problems because she just naturally cares so deeply. So thank you, Frances. I have 3 minutes. All right. So this is an interesting slide. Every year we present sort of who we are as a school. And last year the story was one of 3 or 4 years of declining enrollment. And that trend came to an abrupt halt in June. And I don't have all the answers and why. Part of it's due to, I think, downtown development and a lot of the homes that have been built, the apartments that have been built, getting filled up. Another is just some changes since the end of the pandemic with families moving back to the neighborhood. But compared to September last year, we have 125 new students and a net gain of about 100 kids. So we're a much bigger school than we were for the last 3-4 years. We're about 749 kids as of today. Of note is that the share of Black and African American students has grown. That's kind of an unexpected gift. We are now just a little bit less singular. We're still a majority Black and brown school. But thankfully, we're 10% of our student body is Black, which is a real beautiful mix into the history of our school. Also of note is that we have an increasing number of second language learners, English language learners. By the numbers, 38% of our students are classified as Ls. And something, if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll notice that compared to other years and even decades, the portion of that 38% that are entering and emerging, or the earliest English language learners, is much higher. So there's 2 major changes to demographics in our school. All right, so now into the good stuff. Robotics and coding, where does it fit in? Well, first of all, it fits squarely into our district's strategic goals of student learning and superb staff. And I'd even say that what you're gonna see tonight in a beautiful movie, and hopefully you can go on stage, board members, and participate with the kids, you're gonna see the best kind of student learning. It's inquiry-based learning, and it requires the most out of teachers. So I would say it's the most superbest of staff and staff work. And tonight, we'll share a peek into our progress and provide examples of what STEM teaching and learning looks like more and more at Columbus, and right now in about 10 of our classrooms. And since STEM reform is district-wide work, as you go school to school each month, I hope you see the through lines that connect this sort of teaching and learning to the work that was displayed at Isaac and New Rochelle High School, and soon even at Barnard. The work in robotics should be seen as foundational for the core learning habits that support math and science teaching. It's not a standard, and it's not part of the Common Core standards. We don't have elementary robotics standards that we're following. Instead, you need to look deeply in the math and science practices. The science and engineering practices and the mathematical practices are indispensable components of New York State's standards. And so tonight you'll see what those practices look like and how our teachers set the conditions for such work. Kids are applying mathematics, and perhaps math is the most obvious connection. But when we look at the teaching and learning, considering science and engineering, it's possible to see where these habits and skills from these practices can transfer to all learning. These are the math practices that really have been around for about 25 years. They're excellent. And as our students spread out in the hallways and tonight across the stage, you will see these practices come to life. Quite literally, you will see them attend to precision, justify their thinking to their friends and their teammates. You'll see them in the movie and on stage fix problems and mistakes. The same traits are needed in algebra, in geometry, in statistics, for writers and researchers and artists, in any kind of reasoning at all. So how are we going to know if we're successful? So recently we did a little bit of student survey just to check in on our work, to take the pulse of how students are engaging. And while some emit, if you can see in this, what is it called again? Like a word splash? A word cloud. It should be called a word splash, I think. In the word cloud, yeah, some kids are nervous, and that's kind of to be expected when you're challenged. But more, you'll notice that the work with robotics and coding give a real insight into some authentic cognitive and emotional engagement, all the necessary elements for persistence and deep learning. We asked another question of the kids, like, what do you do when you're stuck? Because that's what the science and the mathematics practices are about. Like, what do you do when you're stuck? And here, the survey responses to this question, they almost as if they knew how to name the science and the math practices. You see kids and you'll hear kids saying, we keep going, we try again, we fix it, we rethink, I listen to my neighbor. These are the kind of responses to me that demonstrate that we're on the right track with the practices and with student engagement. And finally, I hope you'll note how this work supports high-quality instruction or high-quality teaching across many disciplines. Robotics is now just another core part of the buffet of inquiry at Columbus. The skills and the benefits of student-driven inquiry are transferable to all disciplines. And so to help you understand more about our work, where is she? It's my pleasure, hi Antoinette, to introduce to you an incredible, incredible teacher leader, a second grade teacher, one of our 2 lead STEM teachers at Columbus, a vibrant member of the district science committee, Miss Antoinette Kohler. What time do we go? 10? 11. Oh.
Good evening, President Iannuzzi, Vice President Berrios Brooks, Superintendent Reynolds, and esteemed members of the board. It is my pleasure to introduce our Wipro Education Fellowship Project. The Wipro Reimagine Fellowship is an initiative through Mercy University's Center for STEM Education. The program supports STEM education projects that involve colleagues to drive district-wide improvements. The fellowship aims to foster teacher leadership and enhance STEM instruction across participating districts. Our Wipro project is Coding to Learn, Learning Through Coding, building cognitive skills using robots and coding. And could my partners in crime or my colleagues please stand to be recognized? Yeah, that's right, Mr. Webb, get up. So we came up with this idea. I went to different teachers. I said, hey, do you want to do this with me? And some of them, yeah, and others went, oh, really? And then once they joined in, the enthusiasm and the excitement that we have seen with our students has been incredible. And the partnership that we have with Mercy University has been an integral part of the Coding and Robotics Initiative. And people such as Carmen King through Mercy University has been a huge part of the work. So instead of explaining what it's about, and what we'd love to do is actually show you through a video, and thanks to our fantastic Sebastian Zamora for creating the video for us. We'd like to show you some of the work that the students have actually been doing in the classrooms. So, just so you understand that this work, we started this work actually with a kickoff with Computer Science Education Week in mid-December. We really just started this work with the students. So just imagine what the kids are going to create in May, at the end of May. So this is just the beginning of the fantastic work and why we are so incredibly proud of our kids and of Columbus. So I'm going to have the students and the teachers, if you could please lead the students up so they can get set up while I also finish up my part of the speech. My part of the speech. I'm going to finish up. So what is next for us? Well, first of all, board members, this Thursday, we have our first robotics family night. And it's for second and third grades, but it's truly a family night because it's really was meant to be second and third grade kids, and it's become whole families because we have 114 families. We have almost 200 students with their parents coming. That's right. And on Thursday. And what's going to happen is that, and we also have another function for fifth grade families and probably all of their kids, April 10th. And what's going to happen is that it's not just a showcase, but it's where the kids and families will actually interact with different types of robots. So they'll be interacting with the Ozobots, with the Spheros, with the Dash robots. All of this will culminate into a project where the students will actually decide what the project will be. The students will determine which grade level they want to gear their project toward. They will align it toward New York State standards. They then will determine what materials are needed. They will design the materials. Those of you that will come on Thursday, you'll see that my students have actually created some obstacle courses, and they did that in 2 days. I'm just saying. Just proud of my kids. And that you'll to be able to see some of that work, and they'll be creating work that will not just be used for one day, but will carry on year after year with that grade level. So teachers, let me know when you're ready. And board members, if you would please come on up. Families will also will be also creating posters of the students' work so that this way you'll also see the different work that the kids have done. You'll also see different, the posters will have pictures of their work and the type of things that they've been working on within their classrooms. So those of you that are coming to the family nights, you'll be seeing that also, and we'll also probably have some of it in the cafeteria. Our goal is to build a foundation with us as the first group of Wipro teachers, and then use it for us to work with other teachers in our building in order to use and incorporate coding and robotics in their classroom and in their classwork. I'm a theater person. Yeah. I did theater. All right, boys and girls, we have to wrap it up. See, they're so engaged, they don't want to leave. This is what happens, too, in our classrooms.
I didn't put an algorithm in, but that was very, very, very cool. Thank you, sir. Where's Sebastian? Thank you, Emily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was excellent. Huh? Oh, yeah, 2 pieces. That'd be great. Okay.
You need to go back to presentation or?
Yeah,
Back to
just to,
presentation.
if you don't mind. Board members, as we get settled again, I just want to recognize the filmmaker among us. He's incredibly talented, he's very artistic, and he loves being in the background, but not right now. So, Sebastian Zamora, if you would just rise. Sebastian. I really get lost watching his videos, and if you go on the Columbus website, you'll see our Halloween vocabulary parade, you'll see all the performances that we've done in the last few years, and you forget that this is an elementary school, and you forget that it's not, we didn't pay $30,000 for it to be produced. He's that good. And he's also even a little bit better with, I won't say just the children. He is a one-on-one aide, and he works often with nonverbal students and the Boys and Girls Club. He's just incredible. So Sebastian, you're so important to us. Thank you very much. Wait. And I lost my reading glasses. It's gonna be really hard. I'm gonna have to wing it for a change. All right. No, I got it. I'm good. Thanks. And Antoinette, thank you so much. Antoinette Kohler. Okay, the last part. It's really, well, and students, wait, I apologize. Students, thank you for bringing your beautiful learning to us. And parents, thank you for loaning us your kids this evening. Padre, muchísimas gracias por prestarnos sus hijos esta noche. Gracias. All right, there are 7 incredible Columbus teachers, clinicians, and staff who joyfully became full-time family members this year. And I'd like to talk briefly about each of them. Some of them are here tonight, but all of them are incredibly important. First, we honor this evening Brianne Byrne, who's a 4th grade teacher. Brianne is patient, flexible, collaborative, and devoted to bridging social studies, history, and literacy. You might not know it, but inside the world of her classroom, she's also a comedian who loves how messy it can be to guide kids who are becoming preteens, a special talent. Brianne's an excellent teacher and a co-teacher who naturally puts kids at ease and allows kids to be themselves. This is probably her secret, letting kids be themselves, and it propels kids to be brave learners. So we officially welcome and congratulate Brianne Byrne, 4th grade teacher. Lauren Bassett, who is here. Lauren, would you stand just for a minute so we can recognize you? Sometimes I try to imagine how a 5-year-old in her class must think of Miss Byrne, and this is what I come with. They probably see some sort of famous Disney character. What'd I say? No, Miss Bassett, of course. I meant Miss Bassett. They see a Disney character in Miss Bassett. Well, she is. Lauren cares for her classrooms and her students as she would her own, and I know she curates the work in her classroom thinking about her oldest, who's right with her, who's the same age as her students. Children in her care are honored in all ways. Their intellectual potential is never questioned, and their emotional differences and needs are always respected. Lauren was one of the first teachers, maybe it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, who started changing the way we taught reading, changing the mix of books that she used in her classrooms, and mixing decodables with leveled books in her conferring and her guided reading. And watching Lauren carefully and intentionally connect phonics instruction to guided reading was one kind of key moment for me as I came to see the need that we had to change, to adjust, and to grow. So we're really grateful that Lauren has found a home at Columbus. Welcome and congratulations. Carol Caraballo. Carol teaches 3rd grade, and she arrived at Columbus already amazing. That's why we hired her. That's why we went out and convinced her to come. She has simply brought her precise thinking, planning, and teaching with her every day for the last 4 years. She's economical in her modeling and forever intentional and goal-focused in all areas of her teaching. She was well trained in constructivist mathematics and balanced literacy, but she was and is well trained in anything because she critically evaluates all programs and all methods. As a member of our literacy leadership team, her insights have supported huge adjustments to our work. So welcome and congratulations, Carol. Shoshana Jacobs is with us. Shoshana's over there waving her hands. So like Carol, Shoshana came with tremendous experience and kind of already great. And Shoshana launched coaching at Columbus, and she'll forever be our very first instructional coach. But it's not enough just to hire a smart, experienced instructional coach. You don't just hire someone and then it works. The culture of a school building has to be one that supports and welcomes coaching. So this was a hard job. This takes time, even for a school like ours that's filled with smart, devoted, and experienced teachers. So over the last 4 years, Shoshana has guided us through the last stages of our long partnership with TC, has bravely and honestly named our deficits and misconceptions in the teaching of early reading and phonics, and she's elegantly built trusting relationships with all our teachers, K through 5. Oh, and she's written curriculum for the district and for our school, and pacing guides and reading and writing units and assessments and more. And this year, we simply can't find her anymore during the school day. She and her partner in crime, Melissa, are just embedded in classrooms, conferring with teachers or sitting in the corners with 7-year-olds, sitting with a writer and thinking about what's truly at the heart of his or her story or memoir. She's a true instructional leader and a valued thought partner. So thank you, Shoshana, and welcome and congratulations. Bibiana Cygnus, who's sitting right in front of us. Bibiana, take a bow, please. So Bibiana started with us as a wonderful FLES Spanish teacher, and she now, for the last 2 years, has been one of our great ENL teachers. She's devoted to all our students, but particularly dedicated to children who are new to the country. She creates such warmth and faith within her small classroom because I think she sees herself in their families, and she sees her own beautiful children in her students. She builds warmth and faith within her classroom that eventually every student, in his or her own time, takes a leap, and then one more, and then one more. And when you're new to a country, learning a new language is much more than learning a new language. It's scary. Everything's scary. So for some, everything that was once solid and supportive is just memory. And students need to dare to connect again. They need to dare to learn something deeply. And they need to dare to have some hope. So Bibiana shows them that with her and at Columbus, they can dare and they can have some hope in this new country. They'll be safe and they're willing to try. So Bibiana, thank you and congratulations. Geraldine Then is not with us this evening, but she is so important to us. She's one of our 4 clinicians. She's one of our 2 social workers, and she's kind of like the whole package. She's a 5-tool baseball player. She's empathetic, she's goal-oriented in her therapy sessions, and she's an extremely wise colleague who knows how to maneuver when conflicts and situations get tricky and sticky, because they do. She sticks up for parents, she sticks up for kids, she sticks up for teachers, and because she has such a foundational level of understanding of where her work begins and where her work ends and where others' work begins, she does it seamlessly. Something I think that's often not understood about clinicians in elementary schools, and Katie, I see you nodding because I know you get it, but it's not often so understood how critical a colleague clinicians are to principals and assistant principals. And we really think of Geraldine that way. She is here to lead us and guide us and give us advice in the most heart-wrenching and complex moments. And so I'm so grateful to know that she'll be now a tenured colleague. Congratulations, Geraldine. And finally, Denora Tamburello, who can't be with us because her son got the flu yesterday. So Denora's story has always been inspiring to me when I met her 4 years ago. She began with the desire and the drive and the hope to be a PE teacher many years ago. And then she got a glimpse of what an adaptive PE class could look like. Then she got a glimpse of what it was to work at, I think, the New York School for the Blind. And she changed everything. And she decided, she just knew she was going to be a special educator. And that's what she is right now. For 3 years, Denora served our lower grades ABA and worked beautifully with her team. And just this last year, she became our very first at Columbus 1211 teacher for our upper grade students. And no matter where she is, she shines. She's a problem solver, a team leader, and an inspiration to children. And she's always a student herself, and that's something I so admire about special educators. They're students themselves. They just know to observe children and to reflect and to change something. So in many ways, she's a model of what a professional, gifted teacher, any kind of teacher, looks like every day in and out. So Denora, I know you're home with your children, but congratulations and welcome. So Dr. Reynolds and President Inuzzi, thank you so much for visiting us this evening, and it continues to be the great honor and privilege of my career to work with all of you and work for the beautiful city at this school. Thank you so much.
So first of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank our youngest teachers in the room, our students. We could have spent, thank you very much for that. We could have spent time watching a video and learning kind of detached from actual interaction. But I want to thank the leadership and the teachers in this room for providing us an opportunity to be taught by our young instructors. And we cannot take that very lightly. And I know a lot of the adults in the room are jealous that they didn't get to go up on the stage. Too bad for you. But we also want to make sure that we have an opportunity for you to come and explore this learning together with us on Thursday. That's why we did. I'm right here. I got you. So, but for those of us who are adults that got to go up and to learn and to watch children interacting with each other, and more importantly, interacting with technology, that is something that can't be translated unless you experience it in real time. And one thing that's prevalent in this presentation tonight is student voice, right? So not only are our students interacting with one another, not only are they grappling with something that would have scared many of us if we were their age back in our time, but they're also, from what I heard, justifying why they are programming things a certain way. That's the part that many of us might have missed. That's the learning, that's the experience. It's not just the doing, but it's the conversation and justification of what it is that we're doing. That's where the growth takes place. Those are the transferable skills that colleges are looking for. Not just worker bees, but those who are able to communicate with other individuals to problem solve in real time, in real life, through real life experiences. So I want to highlight that and thank this community for allowing our students to experience that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. Mr. Gallen, do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments?
I have to say, I was absolutely blown away at how quickly you were able to explain these concepts that just feel so foreign. But I want to say to the kids out there, I know it's getting late, but these are the seeds. These are the seeds that sprinkle over you now. Remember tonight, because years from now, you'll be getting some kind of, I don't know, Peace Prize or a huge $1 million contract with, I don't know, Google. But the point is that these little moments are not to be squandered. They are very They're pivotal. And what you think now sprinkles your garden for later. And you have a wonderful school that gets that. You've got a wonderful principal that fosters that, and teachers who believe in it, and parents who are getting you up and out the door to be in this experience. And so I'm just really excited to see what's ahead. You guys are ones to watch.
Thank you, Ms. Clayton. Ms. Williams?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, parents, for sending your wonderful children to the New Rochelle Public Schools. Thank you, teachers, for teaching our students. And thank you, students. I am a proud product of the New Rochelle Public Schools. I attended Jefferson, Trinity, IUI, and New Rochelle High School. And I received a world-class education. And I just want to say that it's just the New Rochelle way. And just in the general classrooms, we received these opportunities. And one thing that really stood out to me is that one of our scholars, she shared information about OSBOT that I didn't know about. And plus, as Dr. Reynolds mentioned, she actually had notes. So she was ready to answer my questions. And so thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with me and with all of us. And also to the teachers. I always had teachers who nurtured me and prepared me to present my ideas and also to have confidence to be in any room, any place. So thank you very much. And I would like to congratulate our new members of the New Rochelle School District who have received tenure, Ms. Byrne, Ms. Carballo, Ms. Bassett, Ms. Jacobs, Ms. Signes, Ms. Then, and Ms. Tamborello. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your passion and your love for the children of New Rochelle. And we will just keep on getting better, if that's possible. It is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Lewis?
I will keep it brief. I know it's a long night. I will just say that for the group that I got a chance to watch, on our slides today, we saw something that said try again, and I got to firsthand experience my group try again. It didn't work the first time, and they just reset and did it from the beginning. And not only did they try again, but their teacher, Mr. Webb, right, encouraged them. He's like, you know the answer. Go ahead, take your time, and he just really from the beginning. So it was very, very encouraging to watch that. So congratulations, students. Thank you to our teachers that guide them through this entire process. And the fact that you guys are comfortable speaking to adults. I wasn't always comfortable speaking to adults at your age. And so you can just be proud of the small things that don't seem like big things to you, but they're big things to us.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Castellano-Manai?
Thank you to the Columbus family. And I don't want the word to get out that I dedicated a poem at Trinity and I didn't do a very special one for Columbus. So this one is for all of you because you all just make our board and your teachers and your administrators and your families so proud. So the poem I'll read for you is a short one, but one that I hope you always remember, and I'll send it to you as well. It's called Pride by Alma Florada, and I'll read it in English and Spanish. En español primero. Orgullo. Orgullosa de mi familia, orgullosa de mi lengua, orgullosa de mi cultura, orgullosa de mi raza, orgullosa de ser quien soy. And now in English. Pride. Proud of my family, proud of my language, proud of my culture, proud of my people, proud of being who I am. And thank you for making Columbus School so proud and for being who you are. Congratulations.
So, Mr. Gowan, when I think about Columbus Elementary School, I think about what a true community school it is. And I say that because you guys here do more than just educate the child. You take care of the kids here, but you offer so many different experiences and opportunities, not just for the kids, but for the parents and families that come here. As Mr. Gallo mentioned before, I've had the pleasure to be the neighbor of Columbus for close to 13 years now. I've worked at the Boys and Girls Club, and I've been able to partner with Columbus and see what that partnership has been able to impact on this community. And I also live in the community. I've been here all my life, and I remember when a chicken roll at Saucony used to be less than $4, but yeah. But I just have to really talk about that impact that you guys are making here. And tonight I got to see something I really haven't seen before. And Ms. Kohler, you've invited me all the time to your class, and I've been able to see some of the great things you guys do. But this was amazing, and this is really what makes New Rochelle excel and makes this school excel, because of that that STEM focus that you guys have, that magnet focus. So I really just want to applaud you guys, congratulate you guys. This school, and now with 750 kids, is one of the largest safe havens in this neighborhood. And with the rhetoric we're having nowadays, it's important to have these safety centers for our families and our students. And I know that you guys here are that safety center for a lot of people in this community. So thank you, and thank all the teachers here for ensuring that our students are safe and our parents have somewhere to go when they need help. So thank you. All right, seeing no other comments or questions, Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you very much, President Iannuzzi. So being that I gave my weather report earlier and it's still standing so far, we're going to excuse our students so that they can go home and get a good night's sleep and be ready to come to school tomorrow. And I want to thank our family members for being here, and we ask that you please get home a little bit safe, get home safely. During this time, we're going to transition and prepare for our next presentation, and that will come from our from our finance department. So I'm going to ask our assistant superintendent and our business administrator to come forward.
Good evening.
That's the thing right here. The button in the middle. I'm gonna do it right now. The little things that make me so happy.
And as we finish up our transition at this point, forgive me for standing. I would usually join my colleagues, but it's a little awkward to get around and get back without interfering. So this evening we're going to be led down our budget work session number 4, just so we understand where we currently are as it relates to our budget. Tonight you're going to hear a lot of information that has been presented. We've been building up our presentation to get to certain points so that we can make the public aware of every nuance of our budget as it's coming into reality. And you may wonder why it is that we can't just present the budget straightforward the first time. We're actually receiving information in real time, both from the state, from our elected officials, and as a matter of fact, we are still in the season of meeting with our elected officials to really talk through what our state offered funding means for us as a district, and to really see if there's any allowance for reallocation of funding, for additional funding to come to us. So those conversations are still happening in real time. But more importantly, we wanted to share with you this evening the results of a conversation that we've had with the board and what that will mean for our taxpayers as it relates to our budget, and as we begin to have a continued conversation in unpacking what those effects will have on the educational system in the City School District of New Rochelle. So tonight we're going to continue with that conversation with our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations, Mr. Carlos Leal, and our Business Administrator, Ms. Joy Mike.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Again, you'll see some repeats from our last week, and then a few additional ads, and then we'll come back after the break. So I wanted to make sure that we parcel it out correctly. So again, in the budget process, we are moving forward with our guiding principles and our strategic roadmap that's guiding the work. The budget variables and the budget snapshot is where we're spending time discussing, and then we'll move into, of course, the stakeholder input and the budget vote. At the end of the presentation, you'll see the multiple opportunities where folks can engage with us and vice versa, and we invite that conversation continuously through this process. Again, everything is aligned to our vision, mission, and our equity vision. And of course, our strategic roadmap, keeping in mind that all that we do is really in service to our students and maintaining that whole child approach. So, as mentioned last time, we came together collectively. Usually we present the expenditures up front. We say, here is how much we need, and then we end with the revenue conversation and say, this is going to be the tax levy. So we're actually flipping that conversation. And the reason is because we need to talk about revenue first. Where is it that we need to go? What is our goal? That being said, we shared this last week, and I will again summarize. So on the far left is the state categories, then the actual for 23-24 state aid that we received in that particular year. Then 24 last year, that starts with the governor's proposal, the change and the increase. And you'll see that in that yellow box. And here we go, we have a pointer this week. And then what the actual was, because those numbers actually adjust a bit over. So the governor's proposal came out with $65,611,305, but what we actually ended up in terms of the recommended state aid for foundation aid was $66,107,569. This year, for 25-26, currently, the governor's proposal has a 2% increase to $67,429,720, which is an increase of $1,322,151. Keeping in mind that the increase the prior year was $7 million. So we were like, what? And I think that's exactly how I said it the last time too. Like, that is not what we were expecting. We were expecting at least the minimum, at least the same, and we did not receive that. If you continue to go down for 25-26, these categorical pictures here, the building aid, transportation aid, BOCES aid, public excess cost, and private excess cost. These are for expenses for students that go to other public school districts or private school districts for special ed. And that number, which is added to this number here, is $21,563,548, but that was a decrease. So when you start looking at it in totality, it's not looking like a very good picture for New Rochelle this time around. That's a decrease of $951,893. Then you come down here to these categories here, which are the instructional material aids, software, hardware, textbook, and library, and you come across, you see another negative here. And so in this particular category, it was an increase of 0.66% of only $6,909. That being said, when you look at our governor's proposal, currently it's $90,916,908, but that is actually just a change of 0.42% or an increase of $377,167. This number compared to the $7,994,849, again, this startled difference is what caught us off guard. That being said, we need to really talk about what is our revenue, so that way we figure out the expenditures piece. We are providing you a packaged understanding of here's our current reality of what we actually have coming in and what we're able to do in terms of programming. Then this comes into the proposed revenue summary. So to provide a benchmark, last week we talked about, we offered, do we have that on the 0.33? No, we did not, okay. 0.33 was where our tax levy calculation landed. So to provide you a benchmark, we used 2.95, excuse me, I'm sorry. As the real property taxes, if you come across, which would be an increase of 6.8 respectfully. Our pilots are the payments in lieu of taxes, and that number, if you carry that across, is actually an increase. And so that is the dollars that these businesses that are coming to New Rochelle say, hey, we're gonna pay this, and as opposed to the full taxes, which we don't have control over that, but we are the recipients of what has been determined. So that number is actually increasing. However, that number increasing also goes into the calculation that Ms. Mike will speak to momentarily, and how that offsets then the tax levy request. Then the non-property tax items, charges for services, taxes, miscellaneous, the state aid which we just talked about, other state aid, interfund transfers and reserves. Last year, in terms of making sure that we were able to provide a balanced budget, because we can only provide the board and the community with a balanced budget, we used a significant amount of our reserves to assist with that. We are not in a position to do that this time around. However, we are discussing at the moment moving $500,000 into that, which that in itself would be a decreased dollar amount. Interfund for library, again, we work closely with the library, and so the funds kind of funnel through our office, and then the appropriated fund balance would remain the same. For the draft budget at the moment, and I'm going to keep saying at the moment, is $356,738,419, an increase of $9,257,080, or a percent change of 2.66%. If we were to go beyond the 0.33%, just keeping in mind that it would require us to have 60% of voter approval because it's an override. And we'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. Again, this 2.95 is just illustrative. It's, again, a benchmark. And I think this is where you're jumping in? Sure.
Okay, as we're talking about taxes, we continue to provide a snapshot of our tax levy history. So this shows the past 10 years, starting with the 2014-2015 school year and culminating with last year. Up until the 2019-2020 school year, the district had a history of doing that tax cap calculation and bringing forward to the voters the maximum allowable tax levy. Subsequent to that, we had a period of time where schools were closed, remote, as we moved through the COVID-19 pandemic, And from the 2020 to 2021 school year through the 24-25 school year, the 23-24 school year, the district elected not to go to the maximum allowable tax levy. So if you look at 2020 to 2021, our maximum allowable was 0.38%. We levied a flat tax rate increase, or no tax rate increase rather. In the 22-23 school year, it was 2.55%, but we levied 0.98%. So the cumulative effect of levying less than our maximum allowable over that 4-year period from 2020, 2021 through 2023-24 was about $7.8 million that we could have levied over that period of time that the board elected not to, given the economic environment at that time. Next, this is a snapshot of the tax cap formula available on the Office of the State Comptroller for New York State, which really prescribes in detail how districts and municipalities must calculate what our tax cap formula or number is. And so this next slide is a summary of the 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26 tax levy calculations to determine what the maximum allowable tax levy is. So in short, it begins with the prior year tax levy. That is your starting point. You then are provided with a tax-based growth factor, which is here on line 2. For the 23-24 year is 1.0016. For next school year is 1.0029. This is provided by the Office of Real Property and not something that the district can influence. You add in your prior year tax, your prior year pilots. Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes, as Mr. Leal mentioned. Those are agreements that are made with different parcels of land. It could be an IDA, it could be a corporation that goes before the city council to enter into an agreement. So there is a schedule of payments for the 23-24 school year was $8.8 million. For the 23-24 school year was $2.9 million. For the 25-26 school year, it was $4 million. So we add in the prior year tax levy. That's the levy for this year. The prior year pilots, which is the pilot number for this year. You then have an allowable exclusions for capital, and that is a formula that includes all of the capital work that you intend to do within the district, as well as any voter-approved propositions for capital projects. So that's a number that gets calculated. You then multiply that by the allowable levy growth factor. We talk about CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, which was trending above 2.9%. For the purpose of the tax cap formula, that's when that 2% comes into play. So for next year, the tax cap allowable growth factor is 1.02 or 2%. There is no available carryover, even though in prior years we didn't levy the maximum amount. There is a formula, believe it or not, for that as well. You get to a total levy limit before exclusions for the 23-24 school year that was just over $216 million, and for the 25-26 school year, it's $605,748. The next part of the equation is really calculating or adding back your exclusions. So tort is a percentage that you would be allowed to exclude if you have settlements or lawsuits above a certain percentage of your budget. That is not the case for our district. You then add back your capital tax levy for the year that you are planning. So based on our capital projects and voter-approved projects, our capital levy, tax levy is $11.7 million, this number here. The next exclusion really has to do with pension contributions. If you recall last year, maybe, the employee retirement system went up over 2%, which allowed us to use a portion of that expense as an exclusion. That was $29,000 for the calculation, $29,744. The retirement system is not going up over 2% for either ERS or TRS, so there is no available exclusion for the pension systems. So our total exclusions for 25-26 is $11,750,584, and that number gets added back to your levy limit before exclusions. So you get that first number, and then you add in your exclusions. Our total maximum allowable tax levy, as Mr. Leal mentioned, is $356,332, or 0.33%. That is our maximum allowable tax levy for the 25-26 school year. Based on some guidance from board leadership, after our last presentation from last Tuesday, we have, for illustration purposes, given a benchmark of 2.95%, which would give us $238,425,989. That does mean that the district would be requesting or required to have an override of the tax cap, which means that 60% or more of our voting community would have to approve this tax levy. And so to summarize, because it's important to understand what would 2.95% as an illustration mean for the average household, it again is just over $238 million on the tax levy, the increase of $6.8 million to get you to the 2.95% tax levy increase for illustration. In terms of a projected tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value of a home, that's $892.81, or an increase, a tax increase of $25.58 per $1,000 of assessed value. For the average home is assessed in New Rochelle at $16,000. That's an assessed value, not a property value, as provided by the City of New Rochelle. The annual increase for the average home would be $409.33 for a year, or a monthly increase for those who might have their taxes paid from their mortgage of $34.11. So in terms of the budget vote, which is on May 20th, this budget, if adopted by the board at the end of March, would require a 60% majority of the voting public and would be effective July 1st. If it is defeated, we do have three options. The first would be to resubmit the defeated budget for a second vote. The second would be to submit a revised budget for a second vote. Though either one of those would be on June 17th, 2025, or adopt a contingent budget. Contingent budgets do require a number of reductions in order to move forward into the following year. If it is defeated both times, or the first time, the board could elect to adopt the contingent budget, which basically means that we could not levy any more than we did for this school year, and that number for this school year is $231,593,967. And so, having said that, I will turn this back over to Mr. Leal.
Thank you. So some of the key factors in figuring out exactly what is the total expenditure is our transportation model, and then the alignment of the board policy. There's currently board policy, and it's under current review. But when you read the board policy, there is some vagueness in the policy, and so we're tightening up that policy, number one, and then number two, making sure that we're following the board policy itself. The other is capital priorities, the district-wide capital improvement projects that continue over time. And last year, we set aside the community approved a litany for multiple campuses and projects that the principals had asked for. Ongoing focus on health and safety improvements, wanting to make sure that our schools are safe and we don't revert back to a time when our schools were not in good shape. And then what I mentioned the last time, which was last week, the proposition that we are asking to go forward with to purchase the high school adjacent property around the high school. There's a parking lot, or it's really more of a drive around the parking lot, is where cars currently park. We don't actually own about 6 feet beyond the field. It belongs to the city, and so we're basically asking to purchase that so that we can then maintain it safely for staff and for students, and then pay for some striping and fixing of that. So then the third really is, and kind of where we are right now in conversation with administrators, is the prioritizing, the realigning, and the restructuring and reassigning of resources to meet the needs. By kind of, as I've previously shared, there's the benchmark number that we shared. If that was our benchmark number, what would our programming look like? What if it was a little bit less? What if it was a little bit more? And so we're engaged in those conversations, and that's what we'll bring back to you right after the break, because we'll have the time to sit and sift through all the additional variables that are coming in, like the insurance, where we're still waiting for that number from our carrier, things like that, so that we can provide to you the actual number itself. So that being said, the budget activities continue. We continue to engage. We continue to look at transportation because we know that's a huge cost and we need to reduce those, and we're committed to that. And then looking ahead, what are the additional dates? We did ask the board last week if we could add some additional dates so that we can continue the conversation, so that we get to the board adopted on March 20th, and then a budget hearing on May 6th, and then the budget vote itself on May 20th. And again, I'm going to continue to push the stakeholder feedback. And there are multiple ways in which you can provide that feedback. The ones up here, of course, joining us at the hearing, the administrator request, the presentations, public comments, budget review sessions, and then of course our community meetings that we will be engaged in after the board makes their decision to talk more specifically about the budget itself. Please, you can always speak here by contacting the district clerk. The emails to the budget questions at nredlearn.org, we check those every day. Last year, we had quite a few people who engaged back and forth with those emails, and that worked for some. And then some individuals did stop by the office and said, hey, can I just sit down with you, and can you explain this to me? And we did that as well. So whatever works for you so that you are fully informed, again, we're here to assist and encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities. So, Dr. Reynolds.
I'd like to say thank you to my colleagues for attempting to explain in layman's terms all of those facts and figures. It's imperative that we understand basically what was shared tonight. So once our calculations were completed, we are totaling at a 0.33% tax cap levy, difference from last year to this year, which equates to about $700,000 difference between what we use to operate this current year and what we are able to ask the community for without having a supermajority of a vote in operating next year. So if you think about your current bills that you must pay this year, and you're trying to budget for next year, and you're saying, I'm only gonna add a 0.33% to that, and you try to budget your household that way, not trying to anticipate what the increases are going to be for fuel, what the increases are going to be for eggs, what the increases are going to be for childcare, and knowing that that 0.33% is not going to be enough to meet your needs next year. That's basically what our story currently is. So in our exercise, in our conversation with the board, we asked the board if we could explore using a number that's less than what we asked for last year. Last year, we asked for 3.95%, which was our tax cap levy. And we wanted to do this exploration of presenting a balanced budget or working to present a balanced budget using the number of 2.95%. So that is the information that we have offered to the board, and that's the information that we are sharing with you tonight. That does not mean that that is what is being approved. Keep in mind that our date for the board to approve a proposed budget is March 20th. Now is the work that we have to get into to understanding what that means for us as a community of educators, of students, and of families. So with that, I just wanted to make that very clear in case that might have been lost in translation. Did I misrepresent anything? Okay, and with that, I'm going to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds and team, for that. I actually, and to my board members, this is currently the superintendent's budget. It's not our budget until the board votes and adopts it. So until we vote and adopt it, things can change. And to that point, I completely understand the 0.33% is not attainable for our budget. And I think with the amount of state aid that we are receiving, which is just not comparable to every other year that we've got it, is very disappointing. And please, to the community, know that we are meeting with our state representatives to advocate for New Rochelle. It's important that we get our fair share of necessary funds from the state. On that topic, though, I think until we get like a fuller picture of what our expenses are going to be, I think it would be important for the board to get potential different scenarios as well, besides the 2.95%. So maybe even like starting with what we would get at 3.9% and moving down, just so we get a better sense of like once we finally get the expenses, what
Last year and then work.
yeah, like what we can potentially see the differences in different levies above the 0.33%. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I think having different scenarios for the board is important. So then it'll make our decision. I'm making it harder, but it would make more opportunities for the board to discuss what works best for us in the community and our budget.
I just want to repeat what I think I heard. So our exercise is using the number 2.95%, and I want to be very transparent in saying any amount above 0.33% that we ask of the community will require a 60% approval for that to pass. If we just went 0.33%, then all we need is that regular 50% of the vote, right? 51%, right? We just need 51% of the voting community to approve the budget, and it will move forward. Anything above what your tax cap levy is requires 60% or better. So if I heard you correctly, President Iannuzzi, you're asking us to work a scenario with 3.95 and continue with the 2.95 and maybe something
Yeah,
a
maybe
little
like
bit lower.
1.95, just so we get a range of what that looks like for us.
That's not it's doable.
Sorry,
It's
yes.
doable. Okay.
Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Ms. Castellano-Manal?
I have a couple comments. First of all, I was very pleased, at least, to see that there was a 47% increase in revenue to our schools based on the pilots. So I haven't been a part of that conversations in collaboration with the city, but whatever is happening behind the scenes to make that 47% increase happen in service of our schools, that is music to my ears. And I'm very, very grateful to see that that money is coming into our schools, because historically, several years ago, that definitely was a concern. So I just wanted to point that out as a point of excitement. And then, of course, I'm not the only one in the room thinking too just about federal aid, and given the state of our nation, and I'm reading all the memos from the state, and I'm hopeful that we can continue servicing all of our students and ensuring that they get the education that they deserve. But just from this team here, is there any information that our public should know in terms of federal aid? Because as it stands on slide 8, that is, it looks like it's the same as last year. So I just wanted to see if we know anything. We might not know yet. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to work it backwards and answer, beginning with that last inquiry. So as of right now, we do not anticipate there being a change in what's being allocated to us and what we actually deserve from our federal grants and funding. But that can change in any moment. So I want to be very clear and give this understanding that as of right now, we have there's no reason for us to believe that there's going to be a change in the grant funding that's provided to the state first from the Federal Department of Education, and then the state allocates it to each individual school district. So please understand, a lot of it does not come straight to us from the federal government. It comes through a system of funneling. So we don't anticipate anything yet, but that may not be the case tomorrow morning or next week. To go back to your first point as it relates to our pilots, I am also very pleased that our partners at the city are working with us to get us our pilot funding in real time. I also need us to understand that in course correcting and in doing that, that also hurt us this year. Keeping in mind, the more money you actually receive in terms of taxes, limits the amount of money you can ask the community for taxes. So in receiving, in correcting our pilots, it actually decreased our tax cap levy. Am I saying that? I'm gonna ask Dwight to explain it better than I am, but hopefully I'm on the right track.
Absolutely. So as we were discussing the actual calculation, you use your prior year pilot, and then you add your current, you deduct your prior year and add your current year. So in adding a larger current year dollar amount, it equates to a smaller maximum allowable tax levy.
Thank you. Yes. A lot more eloquent than I could say it.
Do any other of my colleagues have comments or questions? Yep.
Just quickly, I think that it's so important that we get that community feedback. So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir to all of you who are in this room, but for those who are listening, I just encourage all of you to find ways to share that feedback with the district, with the Board of Ed. We are here, we're listening, and we absolutely want to hear from you in terms of our values as a district. This is the time to make sure that your feedback is shared with us as we're working through this budget process. And I truly appreciate it. Again, this is my 5th year on the board, and I've been in education for over 20 years. And the way this team is making sure that the whole budget process is more transparent, breaking it down, adding additional budget sessions for our community, I truly appreciate it, because it can be very hard to wrap your head around, even if you're a math teacher. So I do really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from all of our district partners, different folks who have a lot to say and value in this district, and this is your opportunity. So that's my plug. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other of my colleagues have any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So next up on our agenda is liaison reports. Does anyone have any liaison reports they would like to make?
Very quickly,
Yeah.
I had the privilege and honor to go to Davis for the Willy Wonka Jr. Performance. It was fantastic, and I'm pretty sure Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas will all be very surprised to know that they did such a fantastic job. So congrats to Davis, and it was my pleasure to attend.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to convene into the public comment period of the meeting. The Board of Education adopted Policy 1230 in April 2022 to ensure all members of the public had the opportunity to speak at both of our board meetings each month. believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, understand the board will not respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel and students. Please know, however, that we take personnel concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. Tonight, we've set aside 30 minutes for public comment, where each speaker who has signed up before 3:30 today has 3 minutes to speak. If a person requests to speak after 3:30, speakers may sign up in person at the meeting with the clerk and will be afforded the opportunity to speak during the public comment period if time permits. Our first speaker of the night is Mr. Martin Sanchez.
Members of the board, good evening, buenas noches. Two things. First of all, I want to thank the board for reiterating the message, the public message, that our schools are a safe place for our immigrant community. I think it was very timely and it's heartfelt, and I appreciate that. Particularly, I live in the West End for over 25 years, and I think the messaging has hit home to many people in our community. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. That was very important. Number two is that we understand that one of our teachers at Columbus, and both my children attended school here, and they were part of the chess team. Mark Hagenauer is retiring, and we love Mark. And I wanted to read something that my oldest son, Luis Gabriel Sanchez, wrote and wanted me to read it to you all about Mr. Hagenauer and the chess program here at Columbus that existed for over 25 years. Mr. Hagenauer is a teacher whose impact will be felt for the rest of my life. He is an expert motivator, a compassionate leader, and really good at giving pep talks. We will still talk about Mr. Hagenauer at home. Mr. Hagenauer created a space with Chess Club where many students from very different backgrounds could grow and gain essential skills for just being good human beings. He helped many students grapple with issues around their confidence, their sense of self-worth, and through it all, made it acceptable to fail, so long as you learn from your failures. On too many occasions, after a tough loss or deep disappointment, Mr. Hagenauer would care for us first, and then direct us to review our notation and see how we can improve next time. He helped students develop chess aptitude and human aptitude. Sportsmanship was key for Mr. Hagenauer. Celebrating each other's success was key. Supporting each other through challenges was key. And all of this he taught us to do through his words and more often through his example. I am in my 11th year as a teacher, and every day I think I am channeling Mr. Hagenauer one way or another. It is a real blessing to have worked with Mr. Hagenauer, and I know he feels gratitude for working with his students. So when I grow up, I want to be a teacher like Mr. Hagenauer. Thank you so much. And my son, Luis Gabriel, is a high school teacher in Manhattan. My youngest, Bobby, is a hip-hop artist with over almost 250,000 followers. And this is all due because they had a great learning experience here, a wonderful school. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Our next speaker of the night is Mr. Malfitano.
Hello, folks. Vince Malfitano. A couple of things. First, on the number of students, the extra 100 students, Mr. Gallen, why don't you just check their home addresses? I think you were saying you were wondering if they're coming from the downtown development. Don't you know where they live? I mean, this is rather easy to figure out, that's a mystery to me. But anyway, it's a good thing a lot of the parents aren't here now and they went home, because they would be surprised to learn that their son, Marco, if he told his teacher or an administrator that he wants to change his gender and be known as Maricel instead, and says to the teachers in school, but I don't want my parents to know yet. This school district is telling me, and I heard, and the superintendent responded to my inquiries about this, guidance from our illustrious state, that they'll look at that on a case-by-case basis. Can you imagine that? That as a parent, that we have a district that is going to say, well, maybe we'll say your kid is really Maricel instead of Marco. And the most scary thing about it, in the guidance that I forwarded to you that nobody has the courage to respond to, it actually tells the state of New York that a teacher can lie to you and use the name you think your child is. If the teacher or school calls you, oh, Marco's doing great, Marco's doing fine. But behind your back, state guidance says they'll call him Maricel. Are you okay with that, Columbus community? Oh, it's a good thing they're not here. They might come down here with pitchforks and say, what are you guys, out of your mind? That you don't have an opposition to that kind of insanity? That you can lie to a parent, to their face, knowingly? That's what happens when our state is won by one party, people. Are we okay with that? By the way, and Mr. Superintendent, I like you, you're a nice guy. But I found out the other day they voted to give him a 5-year extension. I called up about it, and Mr. Iannuzzi explained it. Nobody knows what's in it. That you have to file a Freedom of Information request. I remember some people forming a collective and suing the district. Ms. Brooks, Ms. Minaya, was that you? Because the district did not follow the policy of having community meetings when they selected Ms. Mayhew. Well, we just hired a superintendent for 5 years. The lawyers, he wasn't hired, it's an extension. Don't you think the community should be involved in that discussion? A performance review for the public to hear about? I like you. But let's play an even field here, folks. All right? Let's not game it.
Thank you, Mr. Malfitano. Next up is Dr. Carla Wilbright.
Hi, Carla Wilbright, 9 Inwood Place, New Rochelle, New York. I have to change up a little bit after hearing Mr. Sanchez. I have to tell you that I'm always so impressed with seeing some of our kids perform and how well they do, but then to hear the principal speak so personally about people that you could tell he knew so well, and to see the kids come up and greet him and he says their names, like he knows each kid personally, it's really so impressive to see. So I also would like to thank Michael Gallen and his school here for being such a great educational environment for many of our kids. But on that note, I really also would like to impress upon you as the Board of Education to put more emphasis on the elementary schools and put more emphasis on reading at the elementary level. Our kids should be proficient in reading by 2nd grade. Many of them are. I'm not saying 4th grade, 2nd grade, because if they know how to read by 2nd grade, they'll do well in math and science and technology and all the other things. But if they're struggling when they leave 2nd grade to go to 3rd and 4th grade, they're already behind the 8 ball, because reading is just so important. And I know that, sometimes people feel that children should not come home with homework. But it's important for parents to be involved in the education of their children. It's important for them to have an opportunity to work with their kids at home. And many of us don't know the curriculum in school. We don't know the books that the children should be reading. We don't know what they should be reading at what particular grade level. So I'm thinking we need to get our parents more involved at home, and particularly in reading with their children. We call this city One City, New Rochelle. But here we're having a Board of Ed meeting on the same night as a city council meeting. So you have to choose which meeting you want to go to. And that has also the fact that, you know, all of these tax abatements that these buildings have gotten, that now, or maybe they'll begin to pay part of, 20-year tax abatements, the Board of Education should have been part of that discussion with the city when they were making all of these deals with the developers to come in here and then not pay their fair share of school taxes. So I'm just saying that we should be more involved as a whole community in making plans for New Rochelle as one city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilbright. Next up is Wendy Rose Sanchez.
Is it? Okay, I think I got it. Thank you. Okay, hello to the board, and hello to some familiar faces here. I'm so happy to see you. It's such a joy to be here, Mr. Galland, and be here. So as Martine said, we have two kids that graduated from Columbus. I was thinking about the years 2003 and 2006. Gabe's pretty grown up now. And so we're part of the chess group, and for 5 years, I had the privilege of coming into Columbus once or twice a week to work with Mr. Hagenauer and the after-school program. And sometimes there would be 30 kids here, and so that he could focus on the chess instruction and supporting the kids in that way, I would help just keep them on task a little bit. And they are often so amazingly focused. I think that's one of the great things that comes out of chess, is that they're so focused. One time I had 3 chess kids in the back of the car, and they did the chess notation from checkmate backwards. And I thought, oh my God, I was just the parent volunteer, not the chess teacher. And it was so impressive. And many of those kids have grown up to become doctors, scientists. It's really impressive. So working with Mr. Hagenauer was just magical. And we would travel with the kids, 20 to 25 kids, to Kentucky, Portland, and a flight person came up to me once and said, "Who are you?" And I thought, well, what kind of a question is that? Who are you? So I looked around and realized, he said, well, you don't look alike. And part of the thing that was so cool about chess is that we had families from, I don't know, 5 to 10 different heritage backgrounds. And the kids all had such a great time together. We often competed with schools that had many more resources than we did, but we held our own. We more than held our own. And we had something they didn't have. We had Mr. Hagenauer. Mark often gave up his lunch hour to have the kids come in and spend time with him. And they would come and play, and just, it was so much fun to watch. And as Martine mentioned, Mr. Hagenauer's impact lasted far beyond those lunch hours and far beyond the years at Columbus. And Mark is not the kind of person who basks in the limelight, but his impact on the children of this community and their families was so significant. And we hope to find ways to honor him before he begins his well-deserved retirement. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Wendy. We have one more signed up for public comment, Ms. Otelia Taylor-Tanner.
Good evening. Thank you. I didn't intend to speak. My name is Otelia Taylor-Tanner. I live in the neighborhood. And I just want to respond to something that was said this evening. It's none of my business, but if one of my children were in elementary school or any school and decided to do whatever they wanted to do, it is none of my business, and I wouldn't care. So I think that we should remember that students need to be safe in expressing themselves in any way that they want to. That's just what we should allow them. Not if they change their name or their sexual preference. That is none of our business. And as a parent of 5 children, I mind my business. So I want to make sure that with the nonviolent communication, that we make sure that our children are welcomed and loved and taught and instructed and accepted. And as a member of the FEWS and the unions, Social Justice Committee, I want to make sure that we're clear with this, even if it affects us personally or not. Any child that we're in charge of, that we're here to educate, that we should be loving them and embracing them without question. So every time it comes up, oh, wouldn't you be upset? No. I have grandchildren who are adults. I have 5 children, and I would love them and educate them and allow them to express themselves any way that they choose to. And I think the district, I'm proud to be part of this district and part of this community, and this is my response to what continues to happen. And I'm just concerned about children listening to this and not feeling safe. So this is a safety issue for me. So if a child is listening or present, they're hearing that they're not accepted if they choose to make a decision that some of us don't appreciate. It's none of your business. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor Tanner. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? Ms. Cook?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Otelia just said. School for a lot of our children is a second home, and it should feel like a home, and it should feel like if there are things going on at home and you can't discuss it, when you come to school, to your second home where you spend more hours awake than you do at home, this should be a safe place. And the safe place in terms of what you put out for immigration, that you are safe and protected here. We, the adults in your life, are going to make sure that you feel welcomed and loved and protected. That goes for all aspects of our children's lives. Your children, parents' children, when they come here, they become the children of the school, the children of their classroom teachers, the children of their lunch monitors, the children of their aides, of the custodians, of the principals, all the people who are put in place who love and care for them. We protect them, no matter what. We will always protect them. And like Otelia said, if any child is listening, know that your school is a safe place for you. You are loved here, you are cherished, and we are going to do everything that we can to make sure you feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment? Silva? Can't tell if your hand's raised or not.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to congratulate all our beautiful tenure recipients for tonight that are not with us, but they're probably watching. I'm a proud graduate of the school, as well as my kids, who are now 21 and 11. And part of what is beautiful about this school is the staff, the administrators. Every single staff member in this building has loved, protected, took care of, and like they all say, it's a safe haven. This is my home. Even though my kids are no longer here, I'm still here because Mr. Gallen, Ms. Cruz, you have advocated, you have represented what true advocacy and care and love is for all of our children, regardless of if they leave the building, they come back, but you guys provide a safe haven for the parents and for the children. You guys have represented what it truly is to be a community school. Thanks to the partnership and the collaboration. Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you. Thank you for being who and what you are, and to all of our staff for truly caring about every single person that walks in through this building, regardless if they graduate or not.
Thank you very much, Ms. Silva. Last call. Anybody else want to sign up for public comment? All right, seeing none, we're gonna, actually, our next meeting is going to be, this is wrong, it's gonna be the 25th, I believe now. We added a new one. It's February 25th at City Hall. And colleagues, we're not voting on anything tonight, so I can have motion a second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Castellano Minaya.
Second, Williams.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.